not exactly hidden. There is a sensation of trepidation around the palace, one that can't be fully shaken, and the Empress was outright hunting for the source. It wasn't an overt hunt, but this kind of quietude only came ahead of something that was either an enormous aggravation or a gigantic opportunity. Either way, she needed to pounce on it sometime soon. Panicked footsteps echoing towards her lets her know that one of the staff has found it first and is rushing to tell her what's going on. So she turns and starts heading for the noise. "My Empress! My Empress!" One of the lower-ranked administration staff worker rushes up. "Calm down and catch your breath." "What's happened?" she asks, and the younger woman takes a few moments to suck in a few lungfuls of air. Perhaps she should institute mandatory physical exercise for all government workers? If people run out of breath and collapse during an emergency, it serves no one. "In the gardens, my Empress! The Duchess' psalm is enspelled by sorceress flowers," the admin tells her, and the Empress's eyebrows go up. She had heard about some inter-family drama with the psalm, but since when were sorcerers involved? Is she alive? The Empress asks the most important question first. If the drama escalates into the murder of high-ranking nobility, then there's going to be far more drama to come. She is, but none can approach her to wake her. Any who step near the rings of flowers surrounding her find themselves elsewhere in the royal gardens, and no amount of shouting can rouse her. "Well then, let us go, and I will see what I can see," the Empress says, and the administrator takes off at a dead sprint, but the Empress merely walks at a calm and measured pace. It takes minutes for the silly girl to realize the Empress wasn't racing behind her and make her way back. She's asleep and not dead. I don't think a few more minutes of rest will cause catastrophic harm. Yes, of course, my Empress. Have some free advice, child. One of the most important skills to master is how to walk when everyone else runs. During a panic, controlling yourself is the most useful thing anyone can do. She lectures and receives a nod in return. "Now then, you said that the Duchess' psalm is enspelled by sorceress flowers and they form a ring around her, yes?" "Yes," the administrator says. "Is she visibly injured?" "No." "What is she wearing?" the Empress continues to ask. "Tailored business attire, medium amounts of makeup with heavy focus around her eyes. A lot of foundation there," the admin girl says, and the Empress nods as things start falling into place. Perhaps she was exhausted and trying to cover it up when she was taken. Did they even remove her shoes? No, she's wearing sensible flats, so she was likely not entertaining guests at the time. But needed to worry about appearance, so was covering something up with the makeup, meaning either on or expecting some kind of video conference and not expecting to have much more than her upper body be seen. The Empress muses before considering. Now, what kind of flowers surround her? Dark falgary blooms and bright hanara fronds. A final warning, the Empress realizes as her eyes light up. "Oh, this is interesting. Pardon my Empress, don't you know the royal flower language? Bright hanara fronds means something is final, where a dark falgary bloom is a warning. The bright hanara surround the dark falgary, don't they?" "They do, milady. Final warning. A very simple and poignant message, very direct." This is clearly tied into her recent family drama, and she started treading on the toes of the sorcerers. "What makes you think that they're on the move, my Empress? Haven't you acted to try and calm them as a group?" "I acted to get ahead of future sorcerers and as a peace offering to the current ones. One the old bloodshedding and bone-cracking madmen have been mostly ambivalent towards, but has caught the next 3 up-and-coming sorcerers and effectively tamed them before they could go feral," the Empress notes. "However, if the old guard are moving with them now, then there's something they agree with, something they like." "My Empress, 2 hours ago, the sorcerers began to move. Not the soldiers in the forest, but the married and tamed wild men. Their wives told me that they received a visitor, and shortly after their husband vanished with him. It was the bone chewer that started it all, but I suspect the city shaker to be the one that started him on it. Now we have 22 APUC sorcerers either doing something in the dark forest or on the move. Couple that with the 100 soldier sorcerers and 4 apprentices, including the bone chewer's son, and we have a very interesting and very powerful group of actors. One perfectly capable of abducting a duchess from her manor and laying her out like a prize in your royal gardens without being observed. The administrator notes and the empress nods. I have to wonder what she did exactly. Her duchy has been nothing but prosperous and stable for the entirety of her rule and family drama aside. She has been dutiful and competent in all her dealings. The empress notes as the administrator leads her around 2 more bends and to the easternmost garden. The garden should be in full light, but today the clouds above are casting a shadow except a single beam of light. Well, they certainly like to get the point across. You failed to mention this. The empress notes as the admin girl outright chokes at the sight. It wasn't like this a minute ago, the girl protests. I'm sure it wasn't. Excuse me, the empress states, striding into her garden. There are a few sorcerers who extended the breadth of their power into atmospheric control as well. Interestingly, none of them had shown even an inkling of such things during the initial rampage or their childhoods, which meant that the bloodbark, the burnstone, and the dread moss would be terrible and terrifying surprises to anyone that bothers them. The flowers lean away from her and reveal a path to the small bed of flowers that Duchess Alara Psalm sleeps upon. That she stirs as the empress approaches shows that the sorcerers want her to deal with this. There's a flash of annoyance at that thought. She's the Empress of Serbo, the highest authority of all APUCs in political, cultural, and military matters. She takes a breath and decides to look at this from a more flattering angle. The sorcerers, ultimate prize and ultimate terror of Serbo, were trusting her to deal with things and deferring to her judgment in this matter, whatever the matter actually is. In that light, this is an outright flattering bit of outreach. Duchess Alarasalm groans as she sits up and shields her eyes from the light above. The beam of sunlight twists as whatever was concentrating things in the clouds above fades and allows the cloud to dissipate. My empress? What am I doing here? Alarasalm asks in a daze. She's clearly not fully awake. I was about to ask you much the same, Duchess. What have you done to provoke sorcerers to this extent? Most usually provoke an act of murder or a visit in the dark, not an imperial display in my gardens. The Empress asks, and she can see Alarasalm go from, oh, I'm having a normal dream to, oh, eat shit, behind her eyes in a second. The Empress takes a step back as the noblewoman snaps up and starts looking around in shock. Her eyes catch the flowers, and there's a pause before she breathes a gout of flame on them. They drink it in and grow stronger. Definitely dark forest flowers. But I never even hinted at the possibility that a sorcerer should be placed in harm's way. The Duchess pants out. Lady Psalm, what happened? The Empress asks. Milady, my heiress has run away from home. I've put a bounty on her being returned alive and unharmed. She was last seen around Lilb Tulelb. And why would a sorcerer take offense to this? The Empress asks. She ran away with a sorcerer, but he was not mentioned at all in the bounty, and I specified no harm is to come to her for it. Surely they would just observe from afar and then sneak in during the night, right? Clearly that hasn't happened. I suggest you withdraw the bounty. Or don't. The message is rather clear, however. They can touch me wherever I am, and this is my last chance? Duchess Psalm asks, and the Empress nods, and Alara looks down. I just don't understand. I gave my youngers all the freedom they could dream of. I gave my eldest all the purpose that one could ever ask for. Of course I treated them differently. I need an heiress, and different people are different. But why has it failed so badly? My little Alara is born to lead, She is the heiress by every tradition. She must be close by and beloved by the people for when her time comes. Your daughter appears to disagree. The Empress notes softly. It doesn't make sense. Alara Psalm states, and the Empress merely listens. What I've done with my family has worked so well with my province. Freedom within limits so that wealth and prestige can grow without harm. Priming the leaders in order for prosperity and plenty of wealth to spread around so it all comes back. Perhaps you chose the wrong child to mold into your second coming. Letting Alara the younger have some time to stretch out, and the option to refuse would have likely solved a great deal of grief in the long run. Regardless, I have a great many new flowers in my garden, and you no doubt have to get home. I'll have a maid call your chauffeur. Thank you for your generosity, milady, Duchess Psalm says in a quiet tone. Although you could tell me exactly why it looks like this kidnapping and threat are the first bit of sleep you've gotten in some time. What else do you think, milady? I was looking for my daughter and fending off spurious and cruel accusations of neglect and abuse from the rest of my children. I've had nothing but love to give them and showered each and every one of my children with more wealth than some entire families see in a century. The worst I've done to any of them was shout when they were truly acting up. I see. Do you need professional intervention? This sounds like it's getting out of control. The Empress offers. No, I can handle this, Duchess Psalm says. And the Empress pointedly glances to the bell-shaped purple dark falgary and the dozens of tiny yellow flowers on a larger stem that are the bright Hanara. I can. Just be careful. Otherwise, one of your daughters may be swearing their fealty to me sooner rather than later. The Empress warns her, and Duchess Psalm gets a distant look that tells the Empress that what she just said just sank through. The barrier wall detonates outward as green light starts spreading through the mushroom forest, allowing at last the conversations inside to be heard as most of the sorcerers depart for home, but a few stick around to watch as the forest grows. Looks like our little message was properly delivered. Orcs youth. The Burnstone notes with a grin. Of course it did. We put it in the Empress's own garden and shone a spotlight on it. That message was visible from satellite. Galathuan. The Bloodbark retorts. As he steps through the earthen barrier and the ground begins to shift. The younger dark forest is reshaping things more to its liking. The earth softens and grows loamy, just waiting for mycelia to start digging in and growing fungal life. Lasers fire off and are absorbed entirely by the mushrooms, causing things to grow stronger and brighter. This new forest is going to be far from dark, but hopefully just as powerful. Morg Archon steps out, a glowing green glow of armor on him as the fungus offers its protection. And that is going to take some getting used to, Galeth remarks with a snort at the sight of Morg. Oh, don't be squeamish, old man, this is cool, Morg Archon says, and the older sorcerer snorts in amusement.